Okay, please the court, counsel. Good morning, members of the jury. August 11th, 2014 started like a day like any other for Aaron Robinson. I expect that you're going to hear Mr. Robinson got up that morning, he went to work, he came home, changed his clothing, and then he went to run some errands with his fiancée at the time, Kayla Bryant. What we're going to learn is that during the time that he's running some errands, going to the Circle K, he hears about an interaction that Kayla Bryant had with Raul Ortiz earlier in the day. We're going to learn that Ms. Bryant told Mr. Robinson that she was at the Circle K and that Mr. Ortiz came into the Circle K and stood very close to her, tried to look down her shirt, made her feel very uncomfortable. And I anticipate that you're going to have a chance to actually see a video of the Circle K. One of the things that you may find is that Kayla Bryant may have exaggerated what happened at the Circle K. She may have been a little dramatic about what happened at the Circle K. But Mr. Robinson wasn't there. So all he knows is what Kayla Bryant told him. So we're going to learn that this all happens in a small area of town. It happens out in Waimama, where everyone tends to know each other. Everyone tends to run into each other at places like the Circle K. What I expect you're going to hear is that as Ms. Bryant and Mr. Robinson are leaving the Circle K, they see Danielle Reynolds. And Ms. Reynolds happens to be Mr. Ortiz's girlfriend at the time. Ms. Reynolds also happened to have been a prior girlfriend of Mr. Robinson's father. So Aaron Robinson's very familiar with her. We'll hear that as they're leaving the Circle K, they see Ms. Reynolds, they kind of flag her down, get her attention, and let her know what happened. I expect you'll hear that Mr. Robinson had a conversation with Ms. Reynolds where he told her, hey, what Raul did is not right. He has no reason to be sexually harassing my girlfriend. We're then going to hear that the parties went their separate ways, or so they thought. I expect that the next thing that you'll find is that Aaron Robinson and Kayla Bryant went to the Dollar General. And I expect that you'll see video of that. You're going to see Aaron Robinson, Kayla Bryant go into the Dollar General, go shopping for their items. You'll be able to see Aaron Robinson's demeanor at the time. It's perfectly fine. And then what I expect is that you're going to see Danielle Reynolds track Aaron Robinson down, go into the store, and give her a phone. A phone that you're going to learn has Raul Ortiz on the other end of the line. And what you're going to hear is that Raul Ortiz wanted to talk to Aaron Robinson, wanted to confront Aaron Robinson. I expect what you'll see is Aaron Robinson takes that phone and he leaves the Dollar General. You'll then see Ms. Reynolds going into the store shopping with her mother. She leaves. And the next thing we're going to hear about is what happens at Raul Ortiz's residence, just a couple of miles from that Dollar General. And this is going to be important because you're going to hear from Kimberly Boyette, who lives across the street and a bit diagonal from where Mr. Ortiz lives, or lived at the time. And what I expect that you're going to learn is that Kim Boyette was Mr. Ortiz's best friend at the time. She was very close to him. She was standing out at her mailbox when suddenly she sees two pickup trucks come to the area of where they live. And Ms. Boyette is going to tell you what she believes she observed. What you're going to find is that there are problems with her testimony. There are problems with her testimony because you're going to hear she's given multiple statements, not just throughout the years, but multiple statements right after this happened. And I expect you're going to hear how those statements changed, how they changed from the amount of people that were involved, from what she was able to observe, from what she was not able to observe. And that's something that you should consider. You're also going to have, in addition to her testimony, you're going to have the physical evidence. You're going to be able to see exactly where Raul Ortiz ultimately came to rest after the fight. And what you're going to find is that is just right inside the fence line, not deep into his property, but just inside the fence line. You're going to see other things. You're going to see a shirt that Raul Ortiz was wearing earlier in the Circle K. And you're going to see where that shirt was thrown. You're going to see the blood on the ground. And all of these things are going to tell a different story from what you hear from Kimberly Boyette. In addition to all of that, you're going to have the opportunity to see the viewpoint that she had, and you will have the chance to judge whether or not she really could have seen what she's going to tell you that she saw. I expect that in addition to that, you're going to learn that some of what she says contradicts what the physical evidence is going to show you. So at the end of the day, the state of Florida is going to present you just one witness and one witness alone to tell you their version of what happened at Raul Ortiz's house. And that's going to be Kimberly Boyette. And that person is going to give very problematic testimony. In addition to hearing what Kimberly Boyette has to say and looking at the physical evidence, I also ask, obviously, at the end of the case, that you pay attention to the law that the judge gives you. Because at the end of the day, what we're going to hear is that this was a fist fight. That Aaron Robinson went over to Raul Ortiz's house to talk to him, to confront him, after Raul Ortiz indicated that he wanted to talk about what happened at the Circle K. And when Aaron Robinson gets over there, I expect what you're going to hear is that Raul Ortiz comes running out of his house, takes his shirt off, throws it on a chair, opens and charges at Mr. Robinson, opens the gate at the front of the property, and I expect the testimony is going to be that Raul Ortiz hits Aaron Robinson before Mr. Robinson ever lays a hand on Raul Ortiz. And there is not a single witness, not even Kimberly Boyette, who's going to say something different than that. What you're going to learn through the other witnesses is that this was nothing but a fist fight. There are no weapons involved other than hand to hand. And that's something that at the end of the day that I'm going to ask that you consider as well. Because the judge is going to give you instructions on the law in this case, and there are two things that I'm going to ask you to pay close attention to, which are going to be, one, justifiable homicide, and two, excusable homicide. You're going to learn that justifiable homicide is what we commonly refer to as self-defense, and the judge will instruct you on that law. And then you're going to hear that justifiable homicide is something that occurs in a situation like this, where there is a fist fight, no weapons, and unfortunately, someone dies. This was not the intent of Mr. Robinson. He never intended to kill Mr. Ortiz. He didn't go over to Mr. Ortiz's property to hit him, to hurt him. You're going to learn that he went over to Mr. Ortiz's property simply to talk to him, like Raul Ortiz wanted to talk to him over the phone. Remember what we talked about yesterday. Keep in mind that the state of Florida, they have the burden here. They have to prove to you beyond and to the exclusion of every single reasonable doubt that Mr. Robinson entered onto Mr. Ortiz's property with the intent to commit a battery, and that he did that, and that he ended up killing Raul Ortiz while he was there on the property when he was not acting in self-defense. They have to prove that. There is not a second during this trial that burden, that very heavy burden that we talked about yesterday, is going to move from this table right here. So at the end of the day, after you've heard all the evidence and you hear all of the law that applies in this case, I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to ask that you give the only verdict that's going to be demanded by the law. The only verdict that is going to be demanded by justice in this case. It is extremely sad that Raul Ortiz died as a result of this. But you all agreed you would not hold Mr. Robinson responsible just because a very sad thing happened. And I'm going to ask that at the end of the day, you return a verdict of not guilty on each count. Thank you.